Now, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. So let me explain. First off, it's free. I'm not joking, you guys. The Anchor app, it is free to use. Second, there's creation tools that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Now that's awesome, isn't it? Third, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere, you guys, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and so many more platforms. Fourth, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum relationship. Now, is that awesome, you guys, or what? That's just terrific. And finally, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So I have another podcast with Anchor, and I'm just loving Anchor so much. I love it. It's so very easy to use, guys. So why don't you download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. What's up, you guys, and welcome to the official podcast of Damian Talks Education. So listen up. I am here to talk about all things education on my podcast. So get prepared for some realness and honesty of education as I walk you down through various of topics that's happening in the education world with some amazing guests, to sharing stories relating to education and so much more, because I got you covered with education. So join me on this journey of education with me. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Damian Talks Education. Now, my first guest is a 29-year-old second grade educator residing from New Jersey, who is the UMES and Salisbury alumni and has aspiration of starting his own business and really giving back to the community. So everyone, please welcome on to the podcast, Mr. Nick Hammond.
What's going on, man?
What's going on with you? Thank you so much for coming on to my podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Just getting back from the gym not too long ago. So, looking forward to this podcast, of course.
Yes. So let's get started here with you telling my audience a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Nick. I'm 29 years old. I'm from New Jersey, but I'm currently a second grade teacher and a grade level chair in the Washington, D.C. area. I've been teaching for a few years now, going on maybe like 5 years. As crazy as that sounds. I went to college in the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, as well as Salisbury University. I dual degreed in sociology and social work, but then I fell into the education field.
Right. So I want to ask you this: what inspired you of want to become a teacher in the first place?
Pretty much my stepfather. My stepfather was always working with children when I was growing up. He worked at the juvenile justice committee, so he was always teaching kids and being around them. So, when I went to college, I majored in sociology and social work. So I thought I wanted to still kind of follow that same field with kind of a social work field background. But then when I graduated, I realized that that's not what I wanted to do. So then, I started teaching at an autistic school, which was pretty difficult. It was really, really difficult, actually. I've actually never dealt with being abused by kids. But, you got to realize it's not you that the problem is. It's a lot of different things with autistic children in some type of spectrum, So, I did that. Then I realized, that wasn't really for me. Although, it was really rewarding to be around these children, I just knew that I wanted something a little bit different, something that was less hands-on and more of me teaching students. So then I started teaching at another school in Philadelphia, and I was a reading teacher. I was in that for about 2 years. I was pretty much a first grade reading teacher. And then one thing about me is anytime when I feel like I kind of serve my purpose and I want more, I go after more. So, I knew that the area that I was living in New Jersey, and I was living with my parents. But then I knew to myself, okay, you graduated college and now you feel like you're stagnant. You kind of feel like you're back where you was before you graduated. So
Right.
I already went to school in the I went to school in Maryland, and I knew that I wanted to take my talents to the DMV area because I was familiar with it. A lot of
Hmm.
my close friends and people that I've been able to kind of stay in contact with all these years lived in the same area. So I moved out here June of 2019, and I tell everybody that I'm friends with and my colleagues and my family that's moving out to the DMV area was the best choice I could have made in my life.
All right. Now, here's what I want to ask you this here. What's one thing that you wish that you have known right before you started your career as an education?
Was one thing I could have known, I would have known.
Yes, that you have known before you have became an educator.
Um, Pretty much, educator plays so many different roles. They play the teacher, they play the friend, they play the therapist, they play, mom and dad.
Yes.
Although we may teach students in academics, but it's so many other things that we are with them. We teach them manners, we teach them how to converse with other students, other people. So it literally I give a shout out to all the teachers because we really play so many different roles when teaching kids. But then it's also really rewarding too, and it feels good to, especially when you teach kids something and you see it being performed in the classroom or outside of the classroom.
Yes.
That's like the best feeling when it comes to being a teacher.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that. And in this pandemic, the teachers are more, they're playing lots of roles, seriously, during this pandemic here. So, and a lot is going on around the world right now. And all teachers and all of us, we are focusing on our students' well being during this pandemic because they need us and we need to be there for them. So, what's your how can we make this world a better place for them to live in and for them to feel safe and that they know that we are here for them and that we care about them and that they are not alone in this?
Just constant reassurance, letting students know, I understand this is a different time period. I understand this is new, but this is a new norm. So I know a lot of
Yeah.
times for me when teaching students, I always give kids, an ample time for breaks, maybe like a 5 minute break, 8 minute break, just so they can kind of take time to get away from the computer. I know even for being an educator, it's a lot just to be face to face with Zoom every day, and you're like,
Yeah.
wow, like, if you think about it, when we were in a classroom, we were on the computer, but only to maybe show our PowerPoints to the students, or when we had our one-on-one time and we were doing grading. So actually sitting in front of a laptop all day is something that I think is going to take a lot of people to get used to. But um, again, one thing I always do for my students is let them know that they're not alone, and I understand where they're how they feel, and it's unfortunate a lot of times because they say to me like, Mr. Hammond, like when we going back to school, and the things that I say is hopefully one day we can get back to school,
Yes.
and I just let them know like I love them. I'm a loving person anyway. I'm caring, so I always let them know how much I care about them. And although we are in a remote space, that I want to maximize all the opportunity they have to learn new materials, to converse with their teammates. So one thing that I also do a lot is put them in breakout rooms, let them just talk about different topics. Every single morning, what I do is I kick it off with an icebreaker,
Hmm.
whether that be, what's if you could have any superhero power, what would it be? Or, what's your favorite movie? Kind of get the kids talking and getting the kids get to know
Yeah.
each other. Because the one thing about this time period is a lot of students and even us, we're missing that social interaction, and kids need that.
Right.
Kids need that social interaction, not even just around us, but kids need that time to be in recess and play around, throw the ball with the friends, or just run around, just being kids, and also
Right.
being in lunch and just talking, and not having to worry about school in that moment. It's just about having that friend time. So I still try to incorporate different things like that in order for kids to feel that we're still in a school setting.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that. Now, I want to know this from you. How is your school district dealing with distant learning and virtual learning? Are you guys doing in-person learning, or how's it working out for you guys?
So currently right now we are doing just fully remote. However, my school does have something implemented where they have a Wednesday workshop. So before, cases started to spike, we had something called Wednesday workshop where kids would come in, maybe like a few kids from each grade, and they would do like different arts and crafts activities, and something minor, get them outside,
Mm-hmm.
get them moving. A small amount of kids and a small amount of teachers. So the one thing that I do respectable of my school is my school has definitely made it an effort for kids to go back in the building in some capacity. Although it's not ideal, but some capacity where kids still can feel okay. I can do remote, and then I can also do one day out of the week, which I do. I do like a lot.
Yes. Now, who knows how long we're going to be still dealing with this. But once this pandemic is all over with, where do you see the future of education? Do you think that once we are back in the classroom, we will still be using, distant learning somehow into our classroom?
Absolutely. And we've they've developed so many different applications for students to learn. So things like Nearpod, things like Seesaw, just different applications that students are now familiar with. So I think
Yes.
that in some capacity, students will be still using those same applications. And I think that when we do go back to school, it's not going to be what we're used to. I think it's going to be a new norm. Everyone's still going to practice social distancing in some capacity. Um,
Right.
you know, I know we were in a classroom before, pretty much everyone was kind of on top of each other. But I think when we do go back to school, when that does take place, I don't think that the same things are going to take place. I think that some students are going to be maybe distant from each other. I think
Hmm.
maybe, I don't know how it'll be set up, but maybe even a teacher might be teaching, but kind of farther away from students, or maybe in different classrooms, and they're still watching on Zoom or watching on another type of platform.
Totally. Yes. Now, I've been thinking about this lately, and I had discussions with one of my friends about this of what needs to be changed in the education system. There are so many. So I want to know from you, what is one thing that you will want to change or fix in our education system because it needs fixing badly?
Ooh, absolutely. It's a lot. I think for me, the main thing that needs to be changed is we need to see more representation. So I think, in my opinion, we need to see more African American males teaching. I think it's super impactful for students to have African American male and African American woman as a teacher. I know growing up, I didn't have that. I was pretty much raised in a predominantly white area, so I didn't have my first black, teacher until later on in my life. But I think it's important for that black representation because it really matters. It matters big time. I think that once students have someone that looks like them, it
Hmm.
makes it makes them want to learn more. It makes you more relatable. It makes you more of like a hero to them. And I respect
Yes.
it. It makes them more like you are that main person for them. So some people don't have a dad figure in their life and our mom figure in
Right.
their life either. So I know when I was growing up, although my stepdad was in my life, but I know for a long time it was just me and my mom. So I didn't really have in the beginning. I really didn't have that man force to try to like guide me in the early stages of my life. Maybe like when I say early, I think like 4 or 5 years old, but later on after that it was different. But I think that that black representation matters the most.
I totally agree with you on that. I totally agree. We need more Black males into the education field. We really do. So, since I am a future educator and some of my audience are future educators, what advice would you give to us and to also to Black males who wants to go into the field, but do not know the right path, the right road to go down on? So, what's your advice to us?
My advice is no path is the same path. You know, you might go into college and have an education field, and then come out and, you know, you may not be an educator. You know, my path was a little bit different because I was a sociology and social work major. And then I got into the education field. So my advice to future educators is just to trust the process, and you know, you got to make sure you love the field, because it's one thing to go to work every day and hate your job. But
Mm-hmm.
it's another thing when you go to work every day and you feel fulfilled, and every day you leave the building, you feel like, wow, I made a difference today. So for all future educators and all Black male educators, just know that you are valued. You are valued big time. And I hope in the future I can be able to see a lot more Black male educators, because again, representation is everything.
Yes.
Black children need a Black figure in their life, whether it be a Black male, whether it be a Black woman. We need that for kids, and I think that is super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I want to hear your thoughts on this. We have Dr. Jill Biden in the White House, who is an educator. So, what do you think of that? We have our very first lady who is an educator, and how do you think once she's in office, how she will impact the education world? What do you think?
You know, I really haven't had much thought about it. However, I do think that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will both make a huge effort into that, because
Yes,
you know they both do have a education background, and I think that we're going to see a lot of changes within the education system in the next couple of years, being that we do have the president and the vice president, the first Black woman vice president in office.
yes.
I think that it's going to be a major change, and we don't know what that will look like, but I'm confident that it will be something extraordinary and something that will be um, way different, something we've never seen before.
Correct. Yes. Now let's shift gear into racism. Now in 2020, that was the worst year for all of us, and we got hit with the pandemic. We had the protests, the Black Lives Matter movement, George Floyd's killing. We saw that, Breonna Taylor, and so much more. So, what I want to ask you this here, with all of this going on back in 2020, what does it mean for you of being a Black man in America today? What is that? Because they see us police officers as a target, as a threat, as thugs, as criminals, and we are basically just we're not all bad. So what does it mean for you of being a Black man in America right now?
Um, I think being a Black man in America is powerful, because we can do anything we put our minds to.
Yes.
You know, although we are stereotyped daily, but if you think about it, down to sports, down to music, down to everything, we are literally top tier. And I think a lot of white people and other cultures and races are intimidated by Black people.
Hmm.
So they automatically put us in a shell, in a box. So, you know, it's unfortunate that it's like that, and it should never be that way. But in the same breath, I know a lot of strong Black men, and we have to work even harder, because they look at us as like we're bottom of the barrel. But
Hmm.
I know for a lot of us, we have to work 10 times harder to show that we're not the stereotype. We can do anything.
Hmm.
We can be a CEO of a company. We can be the manager. We can own the company. We can have businesses. We can do all of that. We can be principals. And you know, a Black man is very powerful, and I think they see us as intimidating. Um, but again, you know, we are cream of the crop, and again, it's unfortunate that we are very stereotyped, and there's racism going on in the world. Um, and it kind of seems like with the past couple of years, with Donald Trump being in office, it's got worse. You know, in
Right.
my opinion, racism has never gone away. But it was a point in time where you know, we didn't see a lot of Black people getting killed. We didn't see riots. We didn't see all these things going on. So it seems to me that we kind of took a scale back, and now it seems like we're in the 1900s, and you know, we're in the slavery time period, and you know, it just seems like, you know, we kind of scaled back. Um, so I'm just hoping one day that we get to a point where everyone sees every color as equal. and there's no divide. But at the same breath, it's all about how you were raised and your upbringing. And a lot of times it goes down to, what your mom or your dad or your grandma taught you. And I think that's what makes people racist.
Yes. Now, what happened? I want to hear from you of what happened last Wednesday was absolutely ridiculous. That shouldn't even happen in the first place. Um, the very next day, did you open up the conversation of what had happened last week to your students?
Well, actually, my school we closed the next day. Being that I do teach in DC, my job the CEO sent out the email saying that we were not going to have any school. So I did open up the conversation to students when we got back to school on Friday, and I pretty much just let students just talk about how they felt in that moment. And of course, I teach second grade, so I got some mixed responses. I got some responses like, it was disappointing. It was frightening. Then I got another response where it was fun because kids can go out the house.
Mm,
So I think that in the same breath, some students don't understand the capacity of what took place. So then what I had to do is kind of break it down to students, like, guys, like, I know it may be seem as fun to you, but this is not a fun event. This is something that will, we remember for history and the making. And all of us were, I'm sure, at home watching CNN going on. So um, it's just a situation where we hate that it happened. We really hate that it happened, and I just hope that nothing like that happens again. Especially being that so many events are coming up very soon. The inauguration's coming up pretty soon. Then you got
mhm,
Black History Month coming up soon. It's like you got Martin Luther King Day coming up. So um, and it's a shame that a lot of us have to live in fear about what's taking place, what's going to happen. We don't know.
right. I
Especially
totally.
2020 was so unpredictable. Who would have thought, January of 2020, none of us were thinking, okay, by and in March, everything is really going to close down, so we don't know what's going to happen this year, which is exciting yet frightening as well, because we just don't know what's going to take place. And it's so early. It's January 11th, 2021, and we're still not sure what's going to happen this year. But everyone that knows me knows how optimistic and I am when it comes to life in the world. So I'm confident it's going to be a great year.
Yes, absolutely. I feel that as well. And with race in the classroom, how are you opening up that discussion um, into your classroom of starting to talk about it because it needs to be talked about.
Yeah. And my school is predominantly Black, so I teach all Black students. But I did inform students that there are some people out here that discriminate against Black people, but there are some people that do
Hmm.
not. And just letting students know that unfortunately, this is the cards that are being dealt as being a Black person. So one thing that I always do for my students is let them know they can be anything in the world. Um,
Yes.
I always tell them, you're powerful, you're strong. I always give them those words of affirmation because, you never know who needs it. You never know who
Right.
needs it. Then you also don't know about what parents are saying to these students as well at home. You don't know. So I can be the saving force in the student's life because I told them about what they could be. Um, with that being said, I always just enforce them to go after their dreams, and it doesn't matter what skin color you are, because I think especially in this generation now with the younger kids, they see so much with white on black violence. They see so many of that. So in their minds, they think white people are bad automatically, and they're not. They're really not bad automatically.
Right.
However, there's a white people that are bad. There's a black people that are bad. There's Spanish people that are bad. You can be bad regardless of what skin color you are. So
Hmm.
um, I just let my students know that your skin color doesn't define you as a person. It just makes you better.
Yes. Yes. Um, so what a great discussion that we had on tonight. I just want to thank you so much for agreeing to come on to my podcast. Thank you so much. It was great
Of
having you on.
course.
Yes. So, where can my listeners follow you on your social media platform?
So my Twitter name and my Instagram name is Mr. underscore BIG Dreams with a 3 for the E. So it's kind of complicated, but Mr. underscore Big Dreams, and I'm very active on social media. So and also on Facebook, my name is Nick Hammond, NickHammond.
All right. So again, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope you stay safe out there and take care of yourself and all the blessings to you and to your family into 2021.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, man. Have a good one. All right.
Yes,
Thank you, man.
yes.